The Russian invasion of Ukraine sent shockwaves around the globe. But the reverberations of the invasion didn't stop on this planet. They actually were felt deep within outer space. Because just hours before the invasion began, Russia hacked an American telecommunications satellite provider, Viasat, which provided crucial command and control capabilities to the Ukrainian military. And so before the war even started, Russia had placed Ukraine on its back foot. And this hack also showed leaders around the globe how important outer space is to the future of regional and global security, and the need for greater discussions on common political and legal issues to address these problems. This past quarter, I studied one such proposal in my European Union law course. In March 2023, the European Commission issued a joint communication to the European Parliament and Council proposing a common European Union space law. So of course, being an energetic young lawyer in a research class, I had to ask, well, is this proposal even possible? And so to answer that question, I first had to examine the current outer space legal landscape in Europe. And so contrary to maybe what we think about as science as being stagnant, the outer space environment, particularly in Europe, is incredibly dynamic, and it's changing every single day. And so there are nearly 10 member states with their own domestic laws in place. And sometimes these laws are in harmony, but other times they're actually in conflict. For example, Sweden doesn't always require licensing for some of its launches, like sounding rockets. But then Belgium, on the other hand, requires licensing for nearly all of its space activity, whether it's conducted on its territory or by a national. So we already have 10 member states kind of doing their own things with their laws. But on top of that, we have international legal principles that the Union and member states have to abide by, and regional, international, and local space agencies, all of which are having an appreciable impact on the domain. So I kind of set the stage for what the outer space environment looks like. But then in my research proposal, I also had to kind of understand, well, does the European Union have any power to regulate here? Who's actually making the laws right now? And so to answer that question, I looked at the founding treaties of the European Union, one of which is the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, very aptly named. And in one of these articles, Article 189, the member states gave the European Union a shared competence to regulate in outer space. And so what that means is that the member states and the Union have a shared power to make laws. And of course, European Union law is pretty complex. So there are other things that are constraining what the Union can and can't do. But the basic principle is that both actors can, to some extent, regulate. And so this was really exciting. I thought I had an issue here, to continue my research with. And so I needed to understand how and in what ways the European Union was using this power, albeit however limited. And so to answer that question, I examined over my spring break, much to the chagrin of my parents who wanted to talk to me, hundreds of European regulations to try and discern how and in what ways they were using their power. And what I found really excited me, because it wasn't a reliance on Article 189 that I thought I would see, which was the space article I mentioned earlier. It actually was reliance on a whole bunch of different articles. For example, in 1994, the European Community, now the European Union, actually issued a satellite directive, which was the first space law conducted at the Union level, and it used Article 106, not 189. And as I continued digging through these regulations, I found that Articles 141 and 142 were being used to harmonize satellite navigation. And Article 215 of the TFEU was actually used to justify imposing sanctions and aspects of the space industry against countries like Belarus, Russia, and Myanmar. And so the originally small and constrained use of Article 189 actually has expanded rapidly as outer space has grown in importance. And that was really cool to see from a legal perspective, that the Union was using articles that I never would have thought of to regulate aspects of space identity or space activity. However, when I looked at my legal analysis, and when I conducted a legal analysis of all the articles that they were using, I found that while they were powerful in individual circumstances, when viewed kind of in the conglomerate, none of them were flexible enough to justify the proposal that the Commission had made in March, which was that of a common EU space law. They all were very narrowly tailored, they had specific agendas, or the precedent just wasn't sufficient to justify this comprehensive activity that would be needed for a common EU space law. And that was a little disheartening, but of course, I wanted to leave my proposal on a little bit of a lighter, happier note. And what I proposed ultimately was that the way that they were using current law was really creative. And if we combined that with non-binding measures like open methods of communication, common standards and guidelines, or maybe even codes of conduct, that together with the way that they're using current articles can actually be pretty powerful and could approximate a common EU space law. But until a more aggressive change is made to the founding treaties, I don't think we'll see a fully realized and harmonized space law. And so unfortunately, it took a war for European leaders and many of us to start thinking about these legal issues in outer space seriously. And outer space isn't the future. It's not science fiction, it's the present. And we have a chance to shape how we want to use the domain. And so I want to leave you all with a simple question. How do you want to do it? Thank you so much.